Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning, Benja.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, 18 February 2025. Reports of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning on its consideration of 1. The Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2 of 2024, and the Public Finance Management Amendment number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 26 of 2024. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay.
Thank you. Next.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Jerry Maina.
Apologies, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, thank you. I rise to request for statement regarding the delay in disbursement of the Higher Education Loans Board funds. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education regarding the ongoing funding crisis affecting students in institutions of higher learning across the country. Honorable Speaker, on 20th December 2024, the High Court of Kenya, in Kenya Human Rights Commission and 3 others versus the AG and 4 others, 2024, declared the new higher education funding model unconstitutional and issued an order of prohibition which barred implementation of the model until the government complies with the Constitution and the necessary legal requirements. Thereafter, the Ministry of Education undertook to introduce a new tertiary institution funding model to address the matter. This is expected to be implemented later in the year. Despite the government undertaking to revert to the old Higher Education Loans Board HELB model, there has been an apparent lack of commitment to timely disbursement of funds to students. This contravenes the provisions of Article 43(1) of the Constitution, which guarantee the right of every person to education. At present, thousands of students continuing with their studies face financial distress as they are unable to pay tuition fees, which has left them locked out of examinations. This has triggered unrest in universities across the country, with students staging protests and, in other cases, lecturers boycotting examinations. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education on the following. 1. The total amount of funds disbursed by the National Treasury under the Higher Education Loans Board HELB model, including specific dates of these disbursements. 2. The total number of students who have benefited from the disbursed funds since November 2024, and the measures put in place to ensure timely disbursements of funds to prevent future disruptions in learning. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Melly, 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Honorable Speaker, 2 weeks is very far. The information that the honourable member is asking is very urgent, very important.
Well done. Wednesday next week.
So I want to bring it, I think Tuesday next week.
Tuesday?
Yes.
You'll be ready?
I'll be ready with it.
Tuesday, 2:30.
Yes, thank you.
Mashua Waithaka, all chairpersons should be like that. Mashua Waithaka. Give the mic to Mashua.
Yes. Thank you, Speaker. Request for statement regarding land parcels erroneously listed by the National Land Commission. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44.2c, I wish to request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Lands regarding the erroneous classification of 2 parcels of land belonging to Mr. Stephen Shege as illegal alienated government land. Honorable Speaker, on the 17th July 2017, the National Land Commission, NLC, with the Kenya Gazette, volume CX1X, number 97, listed several parcels of land as illegal alienated government land and ordered that their titles be revoked. Among them were 2 parcels of land in Kiambu County, land with house block 2/80 and land with house block 2/81, belonging to Mr. Stephen Shege of ID number 0551205, which he illegally acquired in 2006 and 2007 respectively. Since then, he has consistently remitted required land rates to Kiambu County government without any dispute or challenge over the legitimacy of his ownership, which evidences rightfully ownership. The arbitrary revocation of his title deeds by NLC amounts to deprivation of property by the government, which violates the provisions of Article 40 of the Constitution. Despite numerous appeals to the National Land Commission to rectify this error, no corrective action has been taken. The situation raises concerns regarding fairness and reliability of land administration process in the country. Honorable Speaker, it's against this background that I request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Lands on the following. The reasons for the cancellation of title deeds number block 2/80 and block 2/81 in Kiambu County belonging to Mr. Stephen Shege via Gazette Notice number 6864 of 17 July 2017, despite his lawful acquisition and payment of land rates to the government. 2, report on the status of revocation of the erroneous Gazette Notice to restore the land ownership rights to Mr. Stephen Shege. And 3, the specific implementation timelines when the National Land Commission will resolve the error, including reassurance of valid title deeds to Mr. Stephen Shege. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Nyamoko. How much time do you need to bring a response? Give him the mic.
2 weeks, Honorable Speaker.
2 weeks, so that. Joseph Gitari. Honorable Joseph Gitari, Kirinyaga Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to request a statement regarding the management of Kisho Rawanawake Savings and Credit Cooperative Society Limited. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to provisions of Standing Order 44.2c, I wish to request for a statement from the Chairperson Departmental Committee on Trade and Industry and Cooperative regarding the management of Kisho Rawanawake Savings and Credit Cooperative Society Limited. Honorable Speaker, Kisho Wanawake Savings and Credit Society (SACCO) Limited was established in the year 2001 with the objective of empowering women to actively engage in economic decision-making. Initially rooted in Embu and Kirinyaga counties, the SACCO has grown to include thousands of members from across the country and boost a substantial capital base. However, in the recent past, concerns have emerged among members regarding the operation of the SACCO, especially following the unfortunate passing on by the coordinator, Mrs. Christine Gary. Since her demise, there has been a breakdown of communication from the new management, despite repeated requests from members for updates on the governance and financial status of the SACCO. This has caused anxiety among members particularly noting that prevalence in financial management reported in various cooperative societies in the country. Honorable Speaker, it is...
Order, Honorable Dena, can you walk back to where you've come from? You have been here for now 2.5 years. You know what to do. Honorable Bensouda, can you induct him on what to do? Go on, Gitari.
Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperative on the following. 1, the current status of Kisho Rawanaoke Savings and Credit Society Limited, including financial and registration status with the SACCO Society Regulatory Authority, SASLA. Number 2, measures that the Ministry of Cooperative and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise, MSMEs, development has put in place to ensure that the SACCO complies with the established regulation, particularly in financial reporting and holding of regular meetings. Number 3, Speaker, the steps taken by the Ministry to enhance governance and oversight of the cooperative in the country to protect the member savings. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Gitari. Chair, Trade, Gakuya. Vice Chair. How much time do you require?
2 weeks.
2 weeks it
Thank
is.
you.
Thank you. Go back to order number 2.
Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable members, before I make some short communication, allow me to acknowledge the presence of a delegation of 5 staff from the Office of the Leader of Opposition of the Parliament of Uganda, sitting in the Speaker's gallery to observe the House proceedings. The delegation is on a benchmarking visit at the National Assembly to foster knowledge exchange and share parliamentary experience with our staff in the National Assembly. On my own behalf and that of the National Assembly, I welcome the delegation to the National Assembly and wish them well during their visit. In the public gallery, honorable members, I acknowledge the presence of the following institutions: Pan-African Christian University from Roysambu, Nairobi, Mathwata Secondary School from Masinga, Machakos, Kiambere School Complex from Mbere North, Embu, St. Clair Girls High School, Gatitu from Gatundu South, Kiambu, Gilgil Day Secondary School, Gilgil, Nakuru. On behalf of all of us, Mother Wangari has asked me to acknowledge a school from her constituency, do so for all the rest.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I must say that this session is very encouraging to find that our schools are back in full force. We are able to host very many students in the galleries so that they can be able to observe the proceedings of this house. It also helps us to actually realize that we are pace setters and we have to actually be good examples for the youngsters that we host here every time. But Mr. Speaker, as I welcome all the students, allow me to pay special tribute to Gilgil Day Secondary School, one of the biggest day schools in Gilgil, hosting over 1,000 kids, Mr. Speaker, even without Form 1s. And there are so many such that even tomorrow we'll have another delegation of the same school. I want to just take the opportunity to welcome to the house and to actually encourage them, because we are only here for a while. It will be them sitting on these seats in the next few years to come. So on behalf of all of us and for all the school students that are visiting, I want to take this opportunity to welcome them to the house. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Members on their feet, take your seats. Richard Yegon, take your seat. Mrembo, take your seat. Honorable members, I've got some 2 communications to make. The first one is an update on reconstitution of lapsed committees. I've been notified by the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party that the Committee on Selection is yet to conclude the nomination of members to the lapsed committees. Further, the leaders note that consultations are ongoing and will be concluded soon to allow for the reconstitution of the specified committees. Honourable members, noting that the Budget Policy Statement, PBS, and the medium-term debt strategy, which was laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 13th February 2025, has specified timelines, I direct that awaiting the reconstitution of committees, the BPS be processed by the liaison committee, similarly noting that the supplementary estimates 2 for the 2024-2025 financial year have just been laid on the table of the House. I also refer the same to the liaison committee for processing. I thank you. Second communication, honourable members, is to notify the House of the demise of 2 members of Parliament, a senator and a member of the National Assembly, the member for Malava constituency, the Honourable Moses Malulu Injendi, and the senator for Baringo, the Honourable William Kipkiror Cheptumo. Honourable members, it's with immense sorrow that I hereby notify members of the National Assembly and the entire Parliament fraternity of the untimely demise of 2 of our colleagues, one in the National Assembly and the other in the Senate. First, honourable members, I report with a heavy heart the passing on of the member for Malava constituency, the Honourable Moses Malulu Injendi MP, which occurred yesterday, Monday, 17th February 2025, while he was undergoing treatment at the Aga Khan Hospital in Nairobi. The late Honourable Injendi was born on 9th October 1966 in Lugusi village, Malava constituency. He began his education at Lugusi Primary School in 1974 and completed there in 1981. Thereafter, he joined St. Ignatius Mukumu Boys High School in 1982 and completed his O-levels there in 1985. He proceeded to St. Peter's Mumias Boys High School for his A-levels and completed in 1987. He later joined Egerton University for his undergraduate studies, graduating in 1991 with a Bachelor of Arts, Economics and Sociology. His passion for education pushed him to further his studies and attained a Master of Arts Sociology degree from the University of Nairobi in 1996. At the time of his demise, he was pursuing a Doctor of Philosophy at the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University in the Republic of South Africa. The late Honourable Injendi has a vast career in life, having worked at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa from 2001 as a deputy registrar and later as a lecturer. As an educationist, the late Injendi championed education reforms and dedicated his time to serve as a chairperson and member of boards of governors of various schools, including Lugusi Secondary School. The late Injendi joined elective politics in 2013 when he successfully vied for and won the parliamentary seat as a member for Malava constituency of the Maendeleo Democratic Party MDP ticket, a seat he retained for 3 consecutive terms. Until his untimely demise, he was serving his 3rd term in Parliament and was the Vice Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education, where he played a critical role in the formulation of policies to improve the education sector. He was also a member of the Committee on Parliamentary Broadcasting and the Library, where he contributed to the committee's work in its report on enhancing reporting of parliamentary business on online platforms. The report was adopted by this House in September 2024 and is being progressively implemented. The late Honourable Injendi will also be remembered for his contributions in supporting reforms in the sugar sector, including supporting the enactment of the Sugar Act 2024. In the 12th Parliament, the Honourable Injendi also served in the Departmental Committee on Education and Research, the Departmental Committee on Labour and Social Welfare, Transport, Public Works and Housing, and the Committee on Regional Integration. In his first stint, which was the 11th Parliament, the late Injendi was a member of the Departmental Committee on Education, Research and Technology, and the joint two of your colleagues at the same time, I would expect that you give it the solemnity that it deserves. Go on, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I was saying Honorable Cheptumo served also as a member and later chair of the Delegated Legislation Committee and served with a lot of diligence as a chair of that committee, and those who were in the 12th Parliament with us, we remember the dedication with which the Honorable Cheptumo served this House as chair of the Delegated Legislation Committee, considering numerous regulations for approval in the House, and did so with a lot of intellect. Honorable Cheptumo, Honorable Speaker, happened to be a very good lawyer. And I was privileged, Honorable Speaker, to learn later, after I served with him here, that he had also worked with my wife, who was then working in the bank, and Cheptumo happened to be in one of the panels for that bank. And my wife attested, when we finally met at some point somewhere, together with Honorable Cheptumo, she attested how diligent Honorable Cheptumo was in conveyancing and how much even those who worked in the bank trusted the work of the late Honorable Cheptumo. And is indeed a great loss, not just to his family, to the people of Baringo County, especially the people of Baringo North, whom he represented in this House for 2 terms as their Member of Parliament, but also the greater people of Baringo, who he served as their senator. It is sad that we have lost him at a time when the people of Baringo needed him the most. Honorable Speaker, I was also privileged to have served with the Honorable Malulu Ijendi from the 11th Parliament, when we first joined this House together. And Malulu, the late Malulu, Honorable Speaker, again is a leader who exemplified himself as a servant, true servant of the people, and a true believer. Honorable Speaker, many members will bear me witness that the late Malulu never left his rosary wherever he went. And those who have served with the late Malulu in this House, those of the Catholic faith, will remember that Malulu Ijendi at all times had his rosary with him. And many of us nicknamed him Bishop. And indeed, where he used to sit, just behind where the Honorable Ikana is seated, he had a permanent position there. And every time as we walked out, we would say hi to him and call him Bishop. And he's indeed a great loss, not just to the people of Malava, his family, but to us as a nation. The late Malulu Ijendi was not just a true believer, but also a dedicated educationist. As a former teacher, he moved on to serve as our vice chair of the Education Committee, and the chair of the Education Committee will tell you the dedication.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Junet.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to condole with the family of the departed members of Parliament, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am known to Honorable Ijendi Malulu, Mr. Speaker. We came in the 11th Parliament, I think, together to this Parliament, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, he was a very dedicated servant of the people and somebody who had spent most of his time in his constituency, Mr. Speaker. He was rarely in Nairobi, Mr. Speaker. Any time he had in his hand, Mr. Speaker, the member spent with his constituents, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker is a man who knew what he was doing. Because, Mr. Speaker, the love Honorable Ijendi Malulu had for his constituents, Mr. Speaker, was immeasurable. I remember during the elections, Mr. Speaker, we were campaigning and we had a candidate as a party against him, Mr. Speaker. But when we visited the constituency, we were told categorically that the most popular person in this constituency is Malulu Ijendi, Mr. Speaker, as an individual. You know, on whichever party he contests. That is the information we were given on the ground. So, Mr. Speaker, I would like to ask God to stand with his people, Mr. Speaker, at this trying moment. And Honorable Cheptumo, Mr. Speaker, also, we were together with him in this House. He was a very dedicated servant, Mr. Speaker, of the people. He was in the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, and we benefited as a House, Mr. Speaker, immensely from his knowledge of the Constitution and the law, Mr. Speaker. I served with him in Parliament, served with him in the House Business Committee, and Mr. Speaker, those are servants of people who have left us, Mr. Speaker, at a time when Kenyans really require their service, Mr. Speaker. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I condole with the family, and may God rest their souls in peace, Mr. Speaker.
Melly.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I want to take this time to condole with the family of our two honorable colleagues, Honorable Cheptumo and Honorable Moses Malulu Njendi. Honorable Speaker, we came to this house with Honorable Malulu Njendi in 2013, and as my colleagues have said, he was a very humble, very diligent, very honest, very religious, and a very and a good educationist. I served with him in the 11th Parliament as a member of the Committee of Education, where we were led ably by Honorable Sabina Chege. During that time, Honorable Malulu Njendi gave us his mind on educational issues, ranging from the primary school education all the way to university. Honorable Malulu Njendi, Honorable Speaker and members, he was a man who actually loved his constituents a lot. He didn't fail to go to his constituency every weekend, every month. And at all times, he served these people with a lot of diligence and integrity. He was a man who really built many schools, many colleges, and many institutions in his place. Honorable Cheptumo is a senior member in this house. He mentored us. We found him. He was a member of Baringo North from 2007 all the way to 2013 when he came in. As young legislators, Cheptumo took us with a lot of humility and taught us parliamentary legislative processes.
Can you check the system is malfunctioning? Sabina Chege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to offer my condolences to the people of Malava on behalf of Honorable Ijendi and also the people of Baringo County. Mr. Speaker, both members have worked with them, and I worked with Honorable Ijendi on 11th Parliament, where I chaired the Committee on Education. He was one of the greatest supporters who contributed immensely in education. Mr. Ijendi, Honorable Ijendi, was also a lecturer and a person who also loved the Catholic faith. We will all remember him wearing his crucifix, and he was a very humble man. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Cheptumo, I also served with him at the 12th Parliament, and also now he was a senator. And I would also want to pass my condolences to the people of Baringo County and also his family. And I just want to say one word, Mr. Speaker, that as leaders we should know that life is not permanent. As we make decisions, as we work together here in the House, let us not carry heavy burdens, and let us serve the people, because God has appointed us at a time like this and nobody knows about tomorrow. So to the people of Baringo and Malava constituency, I personally wish them God's grace at this time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Maklap.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me join you in paying tribute to our late Senator William Cheptumo, who passed on 16th. Mr. Speaker, first I want to endorse that whatever you read, Mr. Speaker, is a true position and life of Honorable William Cheptumo, our Senator and our immediate former Member of Parliament of Baringo North, a man that I took over from in 2022. Mr. Speaker, I want to make it known that Senator Cheptumo is not only Senator of Baringo, he was actually my maternal uncle. So, Mr. Speaker, I have lost a jomba in myself. A man that is fast in many things. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Cheptumo went to school too late. Those of us, Mr. Speaker, who are not born in hospital and who lived in rural areas, Mr. Speaker, went to school too late. You could see, Mr. Speaker, Cheptumo written 57 years ago. Mr. Speaker, the true position is not 57. We always choose the date of Christmas when Jesus was born as our birthday for those of us who are not born in hospital, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this man did a good job in Baringo North, Mr. Speaker, and I have made, Mr. Speaker, give me an extra minute, and I have ensured, Mr. Speaker, that whatever Cheptumo started in Baringo North, we were able to complete, Mr. Speaker, within the shortest time possible. Mr. Speaker, because of no time, Mr. Speaker, I wish to also inform members that Honorable Cheptumo shall be laid to rest in his home in Bartabwa on 1st of March, Mr. Speaker, and there will be a requiem mass on. Okay. Allow me just on 27, Mr. Speaker. There will be a requiem mass in AIC Mlimani for our late Senator William Cheptumo, Mr. Speaker, and I've also known Mr. Ichendi as my registrar in Catholic University of Eastern Africa, Mr. Speaker, where I started double mathematics, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, may their souls rest in peace, Mr. Speaker, and thank you.
Nabe Nabwera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to condole with the families of Cheptumo and Honorable Malulu Injenti. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Malulu Injenti and I share so many things. Our mothers are angled in the same home. Honorable Injenti and I belong to the same circumcision age set, Vachuma. Injenti and I were in school at the same time. While he was in Mumias, I was in Musingu High School. I've known Injenti for well over 30 years. Honorable Injenti was not just a friend, a relative, but also a barometer for many things. When I wanted to check something that I thought I wanted to contribute on, I would speak to Honorable Injenti. On behalf of the caucus, Western Parliamentary Group Caucus, and on behalf of the people of Lugari, I want to send my sincere condolences to the family, to the children, and to the people of Malava. Honorable Speaker, you remember you gave me an assignment with Honorable Wangwe to be the caretaker of Honorable Injenti when he was in a hospital all this long. It's a journey that Honorable Speaker was very difficult for Honorable Wangwe and I. We saw him sick. We saw him rising up. Honorable Speaker, thank you.
Yes, wind up.
We've seen him lose the battle. It has not been easy. And I want to thank you, the Speaker, and everyone else who joined us in this journey. I condole with the family.
Speaker for this country and the people of those constituencies and counties that the two represent. I have known them as very mature leaders in this house, especially with institutional memory. Every time, Honorable Speaker, the like of Malulu Injenti, he normally sits along the way.
When their services are being held, we are advised that the Honorable Senator Cheptumo will be laid to rest in Baringo on the 1st of March, and the Honorable Malulu Injenti in Malava on the 4th of March. And I'm sure there will be requiem masses here in Nairobi where we'll have an opportunity. Many of you will also visit the families at their various residences. We condole with the families, as we have said. Allow me to acknowledge the following in the speakers in the public gallery: Baretti Scholars, Global and Travel. Okay, they were there. University of Eldoret students from Moiben in Uasin Gishu, We welcome them in the House of Parliament, even if they have left. I'm sure they're within our precincts. We'll now go, if you look at your supplementary order paper, we have a special motion co-sponsored by the majority leader and the minority leader. Can somebody look for the majority leader and invite him to move the motion? And I hope Junet is in the house for them to... Yeah. Majority Leader, it's now an opportunity for you to move the special motion, subject to availability of interest in the motion. I want to allocate it 2 hours. So we'll finish it at 6:22, 6:30. Call it out.
Order number 8, the County Government's Additional Allocations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2 of 2025, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to provide for the additional allocations to county governments for the 2024-2025 financial year, the responsibilities of national government and county governments pursuant to such allocation, and for connected purposes. Order number 9, exceptional motion, recording the thanks of the House on Kenya's attempt at the position of the chairperson of the African Union Commission, AUC.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move this motion on recording the thanks of the House on Kenya's attempt at the position of the chairperson of the African Union Commission. This is a co-sponsored motion, Honorable Speaker, by myself and the Leader of Minority. Honorable Speaker, recalling that the African Union, the successor of the Organization of the African Unity, OAU, was launched in the year 2002 as a continental body consisting of the 55 member states that make up the countries of the African continent, with a vision of creating an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force in the global arena. And aware that the African Union Commission, established as the secretariat responsible for the day-to-day operations and activities of the African Union, is headed by the chairperson elected by the heads of state and government from member states. And further recalling that on the 27th February 2024, Kenya formally announced that the former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, EGH, would be vying for the position of the chairperson of the African Union Commission, building on his previous service as the African Union Special Envoy for Infrastructure Development in Africa from the year 2018 to 2023. Further appreciating that in recognition of the immense Pan-African ideals embodied in the candidacy of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, his dedication and leadership in advancing the cause of the African continent through various initiatives and positions held over the years, including his previous service as the African Union Special Envoy for Infrastructure Development in Africa from the year 2018 to 2023, His Excellency the President endorsed the Right Honorable Raila Odinga as Kenya's candidate for the chairperson of the African Union Commission. Noting that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga's candidacy for the position of the chairperson of the African Union Commission was not only his personal ambition, but also as a symbol of Kenya's deep commitment to the goals of the African Union and its desire to actively participate in shaping the continent's future. Commending the government of Kenya, led by His Excellency the President William Ruto, for the Pan-African campaign in support of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, reinforced by Kenya's commitment to regional and continental integration and cooperation, and guided by Kenya's foreign policy. Further commending the remarkable achievement by the Right Honorable Raila Odinga for emerging the runner-up in the election of the chairperson of the African Union Commission on Saturday, 15th February 2025 in Addis Ababa. Recognizing the need to sustain Kenya's growing prominence on the continental stage and advocacy for a more united, prosperous, and self-reliant Africa in resonance with the aspirations of millions of Africans across the continent who seek to see the continent empowered to chart its own course in the global arena. Now, therefore, Honorable Speaker, this House records its thanks to His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, CGH President and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces of the Republic of Kenya, for endorsing the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, EGH, as Kenya's candidate for election as the chairperson of the African Union Commission, AUC, and for coordinating the continental campaign in support of his candidacy. Two, this House expresses its profound thanks to the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, EGH, for demonstrating his unwavering commitment to the service of Africa by offering himself as Kenya's candidate for the position of the chairperson of the African Union Commission, for his leadership in advancing Pan-African unity, for his dedication to the development and integration of the African continent, and for his distinguished attempt at this election in which he emerged as the runners-up. And three, this House records its congratulations to His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf for his election as the chairperson of the African Union Commission on Saturday, 15 February 2025. Honorable Speaker, it's a long motion, Honorable Speaker, but even as long as it is, we are seeking to do three things, Honorable Speaker. One is to record our thanks to the President for his dedicated support and his very vigorous campaign across the continent for the campaign for the candidacy of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga as the chairperson of the AUC Commission. Two is to congratulate and express our thanks as a House and on behalf of the Kenyan people to His Excellency the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, EGH, for demonstrating that unwavering commitment to the service of the African continent. Honorable Speaker, we cannot say it enough that the dedication with which we saw the Right Honorable Prime Minister and His Excellency the President William Ruto work together throughout the campaign, and not failing to mention our dedicated foreign mission officers at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, led by the Principal Secretary, Sing'oei Korir, and His Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, who dedicated immense time and resources across the continent in campaigning for the candidacy of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Honorable Speaker, the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga needs no introduction to anybody in the continent. He is a man whose ideals as a Pan-Africanist need no introduction to anybody in the continent, and indeed, we must take this opportunity also to thank the many nations across the continent that stood not just with the nation and the Republic of Kenya in this campaign, but also with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, the Pan-Africanist par excellence, in the campaigns and the election in Addis Ababa over the weekend. Honorable Speaker, let me also take this opportunity as we congratulate the winner of this election, Honorable Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, who is also a good African from our neighboring country in Djibouti. As we congratulate him, Honorable Speaker, I cannot fail to note with immense gratitude again to Prime Minister Raila Odinga that as much as he was leading all through, especially the first, second, and almost the third vote, even at a time when he was leading, when he got to the sixth vote, Honorable Speaker, after the sixth vote, he opted in the spirit of Pan-Africanism not to take that assembly through another round of campaigning and elections, because the Right Honorable Raila Odinga had the choice to fight on. And because there were many people who were supporting him, then our brother Mohamed Yusuf probably would not have gotten the 2/3. But the former Prime Minister opted, instead of taking Africa through the rigors of waiting for another few months to get into another campaigning season, he opted to allow the assembly to go ahead and vote and see if the person who was leading then in that round could achieve the 2/3 that was required for the chairperson seat. And that is how Ali Yusuf Mohammed was elected as the chairperson of AUC. Therefore, I want to congratulate the Right Honorable Prime Minister for that commitment, for his dedication, for that spirit of Pan-Africanism, for knowing that Africa and our unity as a continent is paramount, and putting Africa and Pan-Africanism ahead of his own personal interests, and putting the interests of the continent and the unity of the continent ahead of his interests, Honorable Speaker. And it is commendable. That is the spirit in every competition, that there will be a winner, there will be a loser. Raila Odinga did not leave Addis Ababa as a loser. He left Addis Ababa as a winner who has exemplified his leadership in the African continent and in the world. And Honorable Speaker, we commend him. We note our thanks as a House and on behalf of the Kenyan people to the Right Honorable Prime Minister for that commitment to the African nation. And I want to encourage him to continue serving not just Kenya, but the African continent and the world with the same commitment and dedication that he has shown over the years, Honorable Speaker. The Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Speaker, you know, is not just a Kenyan leader, is a continental leader. As we have said in this motion, he has served in continental bodies. And I know in the future he could even serve in world bodies, Honorable Speaker, because the world needs his experience, the world needs his ideals and his leadership in many aspects, as we do need them in this country, Honorable Speaker, as he continues to serve us and the world. And we wish him well. We wish the Honorable Mohammed Yusuf well in his service. Let him understand that we are all in a competitive election, and the people of Kenya remain committed to the ideals of the African Union and to the integration of the African continent as one united continent. Even with the regional blocks, Honorable Speaker, SADC, EAC, COMESA, all these regional bodies, Honorable Speaker, seek to integrate. And as we've said with the EAC partner states, we are not just widening, deepening, and tightening our cooperation within the East African region, but we seek to deepen, widen, and tighten the integration of all these bodies under the African Union, under the leadership of Yusuf Mohammed, but also with the support of Pan-Africanists and great leaders like Raila Odinga. And of course, the able leadership of President William Ruto, who is the chairperson of the EAC, East African Community, Honorable Speaker, and has a role in the reform agenda of the African Union. And we look forward to working together with Prime Minister Raila Odinga, the chairperson Ali, Mohammed Yusuf, and President William Ruto, as we seek to reform the African Union. And I want to believe, Honorable Speaker, under the leadership of President William Ruto and these two other great leaders, AU will be reformed into a body or an organization that addresses the needs and aspirations of all African people, Honorable Speaker, so that when we speak as one people. Honorable Speaker, some years back, Africa was seen as that dark continent of want and poverty. Today, the world over, everybody appreciates that Africa is the continent of the future, the present and the future. The resources, the expertise we have in this continent, the human capital we have in this continent, Honorable Speaker, I will not be surprised if in the years to come, we will see, as we have seen great African leaders like Barack Obama leading countries as big and as powerful as the United States of America, Honorable Speaker. We have seen many Kenyans today, including the young lady from Nyamira, who is now a senator in one of the state assemblies in the US. We have seen Kenyans of Somali origin become congressmen and women in the US, become senators in the US, Honorable Speaker, because Africa is the future of the world. Honorable Speaker, with the resources that we have in human capital, with an aging population in the Americas, in the West, in Asia, and the Far East, Honorable Speaker, and with our emerging and very productive and very well-educated youth, we are here to conquer the world. And we can only conquer the world under the able leadership of leaders like Raila Odinga, with his Pan-African spirit, with the able guidance of leaders like Mohamed Yusuf, who is now our chairperson, and with the support of all African presidents, Honorable Speaker. And we must respect these presidents, Honorable Speaker. And in conclusion, Honorable Speaker, as I move this motion and ask the leader of minority to second, allow me also to use this opportunity to express the disgust of this House on the actions and the words of one of us, the member for Juja, the Honorable Koimburi. And Honorable Speaker, as much as the police have taken action, and I do hope they will be able to charge the member for Juja, Honorable Speaker, even within our own standing orders, we have put it that you cannot disparage or even discuss a foreign president, especially a president of a foreign country. For the member for Juja to have uttered the unfortunate and careless words that he uttered over the weekend. And shamelessly, Honorable Speaker, in a church, on a pulpit, saying that other African leaders were being bribed, Honorable Speaker. The member for Juja should know that Prime Minister Raila Odinga did not run for chairmanship of AU under the instigation of William Ruto. Prime Minister Raila Odinga chose to run as chairperson of AUC, of the African Union Commission, on his own volition, because he is a Kenyan and an African statesman who deserved that position. President William Ruto did not choose to support Prime Minister Raila Odinga because he was his competitor in the last elections, or because they have served in ODM together. You know, President William Ruto is a founder member of ODM. He chose to support Prime Minister Raila Odinga as a deserving Kenyan and African statesman. The presidents, many presidents who voted for Raila Odinga to be chairperson, did not do it at the instigation or because they were influenced by anybody. Honorable Speaker, we must at the same time express our disgust by the actions of this member of parliament who claimed that the Republic of Kenya had spent 13 billion shillings. From where? Money that we have not appropriated, Honorable Speaker. But you know, Honorable Speaker, there are some of these members of parliament who sit here. Unfortunately, this member is even never in the house. So he doesn't even understand how money is appropriated. He's probably in a police station now. I don't know where he is and I don't care. I hear someone asking me, Honorable Speaker, where he is. Honorable Speaker, I want to propose the member for Juja must be named for this house because it is a bad habit he has formed. A very bad habit. You will recall last year, the same member, when members voted for the finance bill, he claimed that they were being paid, I think, 200,000 shillings to vote for the finance bill. This 2 million shillings. 2 million shillings. He came here, stood there and apologized, Honorable Speaker. In the House, out of our own magnanimity, we chose to forgive him. When the impeachment motion came, he then went again to claim in some funeral somewhere where, you know, he's fond of following some other man there in funerals. He went to some funeral and claimed that members again were paid during the impeachment motion. Over 280 members, 282 members who voted in the impeachment motion, he claimed they were being paid. And he mentions figures from his head. And I see the person he follows in funerals repeating the same things. And that's how you know birds of a feather flock together. Honorable Speaker, now he has moved from members of parliament on the finance bill, impeachment motion, to heads of state of friendly countries.
We cannot and we must not allow that kind of habit to take root in this house, and we must take action. And I want to invite us. Somebody must move a motion, or should move a motion, to name this member. So that tomorrow, this is what makes this house, Honorable Speaker, be treated with a lot of contempt and indignity because of the things that we say, not now of just our house. We have taken it outside to speak, say disparaging things about our country, disparaging things about presidents and heads of state and nations of other friendly nations, friends of Kenya, Honorable Speaker. How do you think those friends of ours who supported Prime Minister Raila Odinga would feel if they had their heads of state were being paid to vote? You know, Honorable Speaker, it is so annoying. I want to end it there, but we must name this member. We must. Because if we don't, he will make it a habit. Tomorrow, he will make all manner of allegations against any one of us here or against the president. And you know, because they have made it a sport to move around the country in funerals, insulting the president, and I hear they call themselves, I heard themselves calling them Itungati. Honorable Speaker, Itungati in French means people who have given themselves, heroes who have given themselves their time, their resources, their time and energy for the sake of the nation. But if you find yourself following a man in funerals and wherever you follow that man and calling yourself Itungati, you are not a Itungati, you are a slave to a man. Those who are following those who are slaves, they are not Itungatis. And lost slaves who are now disparaging heads of nations of Africa. Shame on them, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move and request the leader of minority, the Honorable Junet Mohammed, my good friend, to second this motion to appreciate the government of Kenya, His Excellency the President, His Excellency former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, and His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf.
Junet.
Mr. Speaker, I stand to second the motion that has been moved by the leader, Majority Leader, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, I want to take this opportunity to thank His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable William Samoei Ruto, for his efforts and for his immense contribution towards the campaign of our Kenyan candidate in the African Union Commission chairmanship contest, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the President of this country and his government has done everything possible to campaign, to lobby, and to do everything possible to make sure that we win in this contest, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it was not a secret that the President visited African capitals and met presidents to lobby and campaign for our Kenyan candidate, Mr. Speaker, and at the same time also received presidents in this country, Mr. Speaker, to talk to them and tell them that we have the best candidate in the contest. Mr. Speaker, we will not forget that. As a party, ODM party, as people, Mr. Speaker, we will remind everyone who wants to forget that the president campaigned and lobbied for our candidate, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, also I want to thank the Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, Mr. Speaker, for stepping out, because, Mr. Speaker, it requires a lot of courage, Mr. Speaker, and determination to come out and say that I want to represent my country at a very high level, Mr. Speaker, of the African Union. Many Kenyans will want, Mr. Speaker, to contest for that kind of position, but it requires courage. It requires somebody who has the stamina, Mr. Speaker, to show and to come out and say that I want to run for this, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this country could not have a better candidate than him, because his credentials are known, Mr. Speaker. And he has served the African Union, Mr. Speaker, at the level of High Representative on Infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, before, for a period of, I think, 3 years. And he had performed exemplarily very well. And he had done a good job. And, Mr. Speaker, he had all the credentials as a Pan-Africanist to contest for that high office, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in an election contest, there must be a winner and there must be a loser. And you can also go on a draw. Mr. Speaker, it is not easy to raise the confidence of over 20 presidents of a country, Mr. Speaker. You have seen the first round, he got 22 votes. Those are 22 countries that have faith and confidence in the candidature of Honorable Raila Odinga, Mr. Speaker. Many of us, if we were to contest, we might not even get 2 presidents or 3, Mr. Speaker, or even 1. Even 1 vote of a president, Mr. Speaker. Even when he was going for the election, his last speech at Bomas of Kenya, in a conference that was held by the ODM party, he said he'll be, when in the event he loses, he has a home to come back to. And life continues as usual. And he will do his things, his business, and other things that he normally does. But Mr. Speaker, what has shocked me as a Kenyan, Mr. Speaker, and up to now I am still in shock, is not the loss that we had in Addis Ababa. Mr. Speaker, what has shocked me is that the celebration that happened in some parts of our country after we lost that election, Mr. Speaker. This was not a Kenyan contest, Mr. Speaker. Some of the people who are celebrating are keeping now busy the majority leader here. Can they sit down so that they can hear what I'm saying, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker.
Order, Wamawa and...
These are some of the people who are celebrating. She celebrated, but that is fine, because in a contest you can...
Order, Wamawa, you cannot cross the aisle like that.
Mr. Speaker...
It's immaterial what she wants to do.
Mr. Speaker,
go on.
Kenyans knew very well that this is not an election that is going to happen within the country. It's not an election that is normally announced at Bomas of Kenya. This was an election that was happening at the African Union. And some of the Kenyans became so unpatriotic and supporting a candidate against Kenya, Mr. Speaker. And even campaigning for him openly in the social media, in all kind of sphere, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I cannot be so unpatriotic. If today a Kenyan of any color, any race, any religion, any creed comes out to contest for an international position, Mr. Speaker, I will support. In the spirit of being a Kenyan, Mr. Speaker. That's all. The first thing that we need to look at is being a Kenyan. Not from the community you come from, not from your color, not from your religion, not from anything. Mr. Speaker, how unpatriotic can some Kenyans be that they fought the Right Honorable Prime Minister for 1 year he has been campaigning. And after losing, they celebrated. We shall revisit that, I can assure you. We will revisit that one. It will not go. We will revisit at the right time. We will also have our day to laugh and to celebrate, Mr. Speaker. And it's not very far, it is coming, Mr. Speaker. It's not very far. You can take that to the bank, and I will remind you the day I'm celebrating that you also celebrated your day. This is my day. Inshallah. Bismillah al-Karim. Mr. Speaker, I also want to congratulate the winner. In a contest, someone must win. And a country that is who is our neighbor in the same region, the Eastern African region, won the election. So we have every reason to celebrate also and to congratulate them, Mr. Speaker, because in a contest we expected to have a winner and a loser. But we expected ourselves to win, but we did not win. So we cannot be so losers. We say, there are many things that happened. I was in Addis Ababa, Mr. Speaker. I don't want to talk about them now, but that is part of the election. You don't have to complain. You don't have to begrudge anyone. That is normal. All of us defeated someone by being in this house, Mr. Speaker. All of us defeated someone by being in this house, Mr. Speaker. We had opponents, Mr. Speaker, in the election. Even you, to be elected as a speaker, you had opponents. We had a candidate, Azimio, and Kenya Kwanza proposed you, and you got the highest votes. And now today you are presiding over here as our speaker. You are a speaker for all of us. We are not saying, oh, we have lost, now another speaker must sit next to you, the one who lost to you. We cannot work like that. So, Mr. Speaker, in a contest, it goes that way. But I want Kenyans to get experience out of this contest, because this is not going to be the last time a Kenyan is going to contest for an international job. And I want to encourage the government of the Republic of Kenya to propose and support Kenyans who are qualified to go for international positions, Mr. Speaker. The UN Secretary General job is coming up in the next year, Mr. Speaker. If there's a Kenyan who feels he's qualified to become the Secretary General of the UN, he should go for it. And Kenyans will support. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose. It doesn't matter. Go for it. So, Mr. Speaker, many countries in this region have done very well, much better than our country, in terms of positioning their people in this multilateral organization, Mr. Speaker. We have not done very well as a country in that sphere, Mr. Speaker. We have to improve our socks and make sure that a lot of Kenyans, even the ones who are celebrating, instead of holding people in villages, in somewhere there in Nyeri, release them, let them go for these international positions if they are qualified. Don't hold people there buying them uji every day, and they are qualified, they have papers, they have masters, they have degrees, everything. Take them out, Mr. Speaker. Wamunyoro is not a church. Unless it's another Shakahola place, where people now go there and they want to die there inside there. So, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I want to say that I have thanked the President on behalf of my party, on behalf of my constituency, and on behalf of myself, for showing leadership as our President and supporting the candidature of our party leader. I want to also congratulate my party leader. He's a strong man. Very strong man, Mr. Speaker. And he always has a second chance. If there is any other position to serve in the continent, he will be available. In the world, everywhere, Mr. Speaker, he has been available, Mr. Speaker. He has served the African Union before, and we will continue supporting him. And he's my leader, and we will make sure that we provide our services to the people of this country and to the people of this country, Mr. Speaker, in whichever level we can, in whichever capacity that we can. There are people who thought that this contest was political. They thought that, oh, this is a contest now, or if we lose, ODM will get annoyed. I don't know, annoyed of what? If there are people we should be annoyed with, it should be Djibouti, the people who took our cup. Yeah, why should we be annoyed with somebody who was not contesting against us? We should be annoyed with the people who defeated us. And we are not annoyed with them also. We are congratulating them for doing a good job. Because African Union belongs to all of us. As a nation, we are part of the African Union. So, Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I wish to second and warn the naysayers that you should avoid that kind of thing going forward in future. Mr. Speaker, because if you are going to oppose a Kenyan because of his political affiliation, because of domestic issues, it's a very primitive way of looking at things. And I know some of the people, why we impeach them also, it was not in the impeachment paper, but it's primitivity. Some of them are very primitive people. Village mentality. You know, people want to go to international organizations. Instead of supporting them, you are judging them on the basis of what happens in a village, Mr. Speaker. I'm very sad about that. I do not expect people to celebrate the loss of a Kenyan in an international contest. It's a shame. Whichever you are, you cannot celebrate the loss of a Kenyan in an international contest. I repeat again. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. Now, if our athlete loses in a contest now, in the New York Marathon or in the London Marathon, you expect me to celebrate? No. Because it's not from my community? It's not from my region? It's not from my religion? It's not from my village? It's not from my what? Shame on you. Shame. And those people who did that must desist and never to repeat that. I must say that on the floor of this House, Mr. Speaker, because this is where we address issues of concern to the people. And that is an issue of high concern to the people, Mr. Speaker. When we are telling Kenyans that you cannot run in any contest outside Kenya. In the first place, even if we run here in Kenya, they will not vote for us, I know. We have taken very serious that matter, and we don't want it to happen in our country again. We want to support our people. We want to support our Kenyans wherever they are. That is why we impeach certain people, because they were telling us we are not shareholders of this country. That's what they told us. We have not forgotten. They told us that you are not shareholders in this country. I don't know when the shareholding certificate was issued in this country. At independence, everyone was there. You should call for annual general meetings so that we know which shares we have. So you get impeached on that kind of nonsense, and you continue celebrating again the loss of a Kenyan in an international contest. We will stand firm. We will hold our head high. We have not lost anything. We have, in the contrary, we have gained, because we have registered the name of Kenya in the international arena, Mr. Speaker. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I thank you, and I urge all members to support and to register their thanks, especially to the President and to the former Prime Minister who put his line, or his head on the line, Mr. Speaker, for Kenyans. Thank you very much.
Honourable members, I'll now propose the question, which is that recalling that the African Union, the successor of the Organization of African Unity, or AU, was launched in 2002 as a continental body consisting of the 55 member states that make up the countries of the African continent, with a vision of creating an integral, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force in the global arena, aware that the African Union Commission, AUC, established as the secretariat responsible for the day-to-day operations and activities of the AU, is headed by the chairperson elected by heads of state and governments from member states. Recalling that on 27th February 2024, Kenya formally announced that the former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, EGH, will be vying for the position of chairperson of the African Union Commission, AUC, building on his previous service as the African Union Special Envoy for Infrastructure Development in Africa from 2018 to 2023, appreciating that in recognition of the immense Pan-African ideals embodied in the candidacy of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, his dedication and leadership in advancing the cause of the African continent through various initiatives and positions held over the years, including his previous service as the African Union Special Envoy for Infrastructure Development in Africa from 2018 to 2023, His Excellency the President endorsed the Right Honorable Raila Odinga as Kenya's candidate for the chairperson of the African Union Commission, noting that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga's candidacy for the position of chairperson of the African Union Commission was not only his personal ambition, but also a symbol of Kenya's deep commitment to the goals of the African Union and its desire to actively participate in shaping the continent's future. Commending the government of Kenya, led by His Excellency the President, for the Pan-African campaign, commitment to regional and continental integration and cooperation, and guided by Kenya's foreign policy. Further commending the remarkable achievement by the Right Honorable Raila Odinga for emerging the run-up in the election of the chairperson of the African Union Commission on Saturday, 15th February 2025, recognizing the need to sustain Kenya's growing prominence on the continental stage and advocacy for a more united, prosperous, and self-reliant Africa, in resonance with the aspirations of millions of Africans who seek to see the continent empowered to chart its own course in the global arena, the continental campaign in support of his candidacy. 2, expresses his profound thanks to the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, AGH, for demonstrating his unwavering commitment to the service of Africa by offering himself as Kenya's candidate for the position of the chairperson of the African Union Commission, for his leadership in advancing Pan-African unity, for his dedication to the development and integration of the African continent, and for his distinguished attempt to the election in which he emerged as the runner-up, and 3 records his congratulations to His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf on his election as the chairperson of the African Union Commission on Saturday, 15th February 2025. Jared Okello.
Honorable Speaker, from the outset, let me thank you for the opportunity and also bring to the attention of the House, Honorable Speaker, that in the course of that election, I was nominated to be the chief agent in the closed auditorium, Honorable Speaker. And as the chief agent, Honorable Speaker, in a very controlled, heavily guarded compound, controlled numbers of people getting in and out, I was privileged to sit with our president, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, alongside a few members representing the Republic of Kenya during that election, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to specifically thank the President of this country, Honorable Speaker. It is seldom that a person whom you have subjected yourself to a very fierce contest would come back to lift your hands and put you or try to put you into a position that you are garnering for, Honorable Speaker. The President of the Republic of Kenya went beyond the call of duty, even launching the candidature of Right Honorable Raila Odinga in State House in the Republic of Kenya, notwithstanding the fact that in 2022, they were fierce challengers, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, history will judge Dr. William Samoei Ruto very positively going into the future. And I come from a community, Honorable Speaker, that will never forget those who do good to it. Perhaps the only community, Honorable Speaker, and I'm very proud to be hailing from that community, Honorable Speaker. As is the norm, many a times there is victory in defeat. And we left Addis Ababa together with Baba, with our heads high. And now the President, together with the Right Honorable Prime Minister, can embark on their duty of uniting this country. There is more work to be done here than there could have been work to be done in Addis Ababa. And therefore I join my brother, Honorable Junet, by saying that those who think this was a defeat against Baba are in for a rude shock, Honorable Speaker. The mission to unite this country, regardless of where one comes from, is a journey that we can never drop. And therefore, as Baba comes back to join hands with his brother, the President, those who celebrated much early will be shocked as we go into the future, Honorable Speaker. And Baba is going to give us more direction as to where we will go, both as a community and as the Republic of Kenya. In the auditorium, Honorable Speaker, there could be factors that played out, some of which we will not delve into, Honorable Speaker. But in that auditorium, if I counted correctly, there were less than 10 presidents who had stayed behind for that election. However, they were represented by their various ministers in charge of foreign affairs, Honorable Speaker. And I would be remiss not to make it clear that even the one who has been elected is a foreign minister of his country. And therefore, those who were given the task to vote on behalf of their leaders, Honorable Speaker, are his contemporaries, are his colleagues, are people that he has worked with in the Foreign Office. And because this was a secret ballot, it was secret to the extent, Honorable Speaker, that presidents and the voters were given empty papers, empty. There was no name. And they were expected to write those names and bring the papers to where we were to be counted, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, the speculation going around that people are castigating other countries for dropping the ball against us is not true, Honorable Speaker. It is so hard to tell who wrote what on which piece of paper, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, unless you know handwritings of all the presidents in Africa, you can never know who voted for who. But I can say unequivocally that apart from Kenya, there are 20 countries that stuck with Baba through and through, even as we went into the last batch of the voting process, Honorable Speaker. 20 countries out of 49 that were present in the auditorium is not an easy achievement, Honorable Speaker. They stuck with us to the letter, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, we are very thankful to the entire African continent because Baba went all the way to the 7th round. And in the spirit of Pan-Africanism, he chose to withdraw himself in order to avoid a stalemate that would have ensued, Honorable Speaker. Only Baba can do that. Otherwise, the rest would have subjected themselves to rounds and rounds of elections that would have led to nowhere. And you remember, Honorable Speaker, when our South African sister, Dlamini Zuma, won, they went all the way to the 7th round. There was no ultimate winner. The election had to be suspended for 6 months. And in the intervening period, Mali had to be taken out because of the coup. So Baba, in the Pan-Africanist spirit, chose to withdraw himself, not to subject our African continent to a stalemate that was witnessed when Dlamini Zuma became chair. And Honorable Speaker, these are facts that will govern the elections of AUC going into the future. That certain times there is no point holding on and subjecting the whole continent into a stalemate. Only Baba did it, somebody else can be able to do it, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, a clarion call has been made by both the President and the Prime Minister, Honorable Speaker, that it is time we united our country first and then move to unite the African continent. Honorable Speaker, this is not a small journey. Uniting a country that has always been divided across ethnic, religious, and tribal lines, you need a Baba and you need President Ruto to have this country come together. You need both to bring this country come together. And the hyperbolic political temperatures that we have continued to see, when we have elections 2.5 years to come, must stop for the sake of this country. Honorable Speaker, we only have one country, and it is called the Republic of Kenya. If we destroy this, we have nowhere else to go to. If you go to the northeastern part, where we are playing good host to refugees who left their countries because of the circumstances of war, it is not something that you'd wish on anyone else, Honorable Speaker. The conditions that people live in those shanties is not something to write home about. And therefore, if there are people who are beating drums of war and are laughing at the top of their voices because Kenya has not succeeded, they do not belong to this country. And perhaps they do not understand the history of war and genocide that other countries have been subjected to, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, let us all in this House, as important as this House is to this country, rally behind both the President and the Prime Minister to bring about unity that shall withstand the test of times, Honorable Speaker. Finally, as my Bible, where I draw a lot of sailors, says, that my people suffer because of lack of knowledge. There are people who can laugh due to lack of knowledge. But sooner, that revelation shall come to pass and this country will be reunited once and for all. And I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And I think I will start first by thanking His Excellency, the President of the Republic.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. You know, this is a very important special motion. Honorable Speaker, I really wanted to have indulged you before my brother had started speaking, so that, and you had given instruction that by 6:22, then it will come. I wish maybe, Honorable Speaker, we could be given fewer minutes so that everybody can have an opportunity to contribute. Around 3 minutes, maybe. That, because, yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Three or five? 3, 5. Let's do 5. We see how well we do. Yes.
Honorable Speaker, I said, I'm glad that you gave me the opportunity to speak on this. I first want to thank His Excellency the President for leading the candidature of the Kenyan candidate, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, with a spirited fight. I also appreciate those members who put in the support and acted as agents. Honorable Speaker, I want to first start by saying that it is important that we know that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga was not the candidate. Kenya was the candidate. That is what many Kenyans forgot. So any Kenyan who was against the candidature of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga is an unpatriotic Kenyan, because it is very prestigious for your country to hold the position of chairperson. That position of chairperson is actually the symbol of continental unity in Africa. So it is the envy of every country to have a person from their country to hold that position of chairperson. So anyone who makes disparaging remarks is actually doing a disservice, not to the individual of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, but to us as a country, and must be frowned upon. It is also important because it seems like during this conversation, many Kenyans never understood the significance of that position of chairperson. When you have that position of chairperson as a country, you literally have the ability to be able to shape the economic and trade policies of the entire continent. You would be able to have the ability to champion the African Continental Free Trade, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, yes. And it's something that has been very difficult for us, for Africa to achieve. You will also be able to promote the unity of Africa, even in movement. You see that today, to go to an African country, within Africa, I have to get a visa. Today, you go to the EU, if you have an EU visa, you can practically transverse the entire EU without any border stop, and so can the trade movement also happen like that. So it is upon us as African and as Kenyans that we were in an enviable position, that we almost clinched that position of chairperson, where we'd be able as a country to champion the free movement of Africans within Africa. Because we must remind ourselves that visas were created by the global north to keep off Africans or the global south from the global north. But today, within Africa, we actually have visas to keep ourselves out of it. We must continue to say that as Kenya, as a country, we pledge that we shall continue to try and promote ourselves to get that position of chairperson of the African Union. And not just that position. There are many other positions that are available in the UN and other international bodies where Kenya can showcase itself. So I call upon all Kenyans that when these positions do arise and we have a Kenyan candidate, that candidate is not an individual candidate but a national candidate. And it's upon us to support them throughout and be able to ensure that the country gets that particular seat. I saw the joy of Germany when van der Leyen became president of the European Commission. And that country took great pride in it. I want to see a situation where, as Kenyans, we become more patriotic. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to congratulate Baba, Honorable Raila Odinga, for the good work that he did at the African Union. Mr. Speaker, I've just finished reading a book called Ikigai that talks about the Japanese secret to a long life. Mr. Speaker, one of the things that they talk about that contributes to a long life is never retiring. And Mr. Speaker, I'm never retiring. And that you never retire when you have discovered your Ikigai, which is your purpose for living. Very few people in life discover their purpose in life. One of them is Honorable Raila Odinga. And his purpose in life is service to humanity. It doesn't matter how much people want to pour in dirt on him. Younger generations who do not know what he has done over the years, you can never take away his Ikigai. And I would want to encourage those who are busy talking a lot of nonsense around him, find your own purpose in life and live it fully and never retire. Because when you find your purpose in life, Mr. Speaker, you are always happy regardless of circumstances. So that's why even whether he wins or loses, it doesn't matter. Mr. Speaker, there are many of us at 20 years or 30 or 40, 50 who will not be brave enough to go for such a position. Can you imagine a person who at 80 years is willing to dare out and go for such a position? Whether he wins or not does not matter. It is inspirational enough that at that age he's gone out there. But I want to also congratulate and thank His Excellency President William Ruto for the work that he has done for Honorable Raila Odinga in this regard, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we went there, I went very cautiously optimistic. Not because I had less faith in the capabilities of Honorable Raila Odinga, but as a person who has worked in the Pan-African region with the Pan-African Parliament and other fora, Mr. Speaker, I understand the geopolitics very well, the issues of regional blocks, language blocks, amongst other issues, Mr. Speaker. And sometimes they come into play, including prevailing circumstances in the region. They sometimes come into play. Mr. Speaker, the other issues, including the fact that Honorable Raila Odinga was a towering figure that some people may have found a bit intimidating. His strength, as I've seen one writer say, may have been his weakness because some people can't deal with strong characters. Mr. Speaker, it is also an opportunity for the AU to introspect. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, sorry, I see you have changed. Madam Speaker, it's an opportunity for the AU to introspect because the issues of equity keep coming up and barriers based on language, religion, or other factors always keep coming up. The way they've tried to solve it in Pan-African Parliament is the way they need to solve it also at that level. Madam Speaker, I would also want to say that I've seen a narrative that people are trying to sell, that Raila always loses. Honorable Raila was a member of Langata for many years. Madam Speaker, he even resigned his position and went for by-election and won. And he has served as Prime Minister. And the one who is saying Raila would never will never win anything, has never even won a village elder position, and will never win a village elder position. So really, be factual and wish your fellow Kenyan well is when God will bless you. Madam Speaker, there are many Sanballats and Tobiases in this country. They are very noisy and even noisier than the people who have goodwill for this country. But I want to say that I was impressed by the equally high number of Kenyans who came to Ethiopia using their own resources. People came in buses, in bicycles, by air, and by all means, and they were all tribes, Madam Speaker. My time is up. I want to also thank them and say God works in mysterious ways. What you thought was going to work for ill has actually worked for good. We were fighting last week. We are now sitting calmly as a minority, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Farah Malik.
Madam Speaker, I also want to join my colleagues in congratulating, Madam Speaker, in congratulating our head of state, His Excellency William Ruto, and also congratulating the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I've had the fortune and the experience of having worked with Raila for over 30 years. And the one thing that, regardless of whether you like him or you don't like him, that you must admit is the energy he has and the passion he has for transformational politics. I also happen to know, as also one of the founder members initially of ODM, our president, William Ruto, because I campaigned with him in the 2007 elections when we were in the same party. And he has a lot of energy, a lot of passion, a lot of wisdom, and a lot of good intention for this country. I haven't had the opportunity of meeting the president's late father, but I've had the opportunity of working with the president, with Right Honorable Raila Odinga's late father. And we worked together in this parliament. And up until the last time when he breathed his last breath, he was working with us in parliament here like any other young man. With that advanced age, he would still discuss with us matters that were current in our political sphere, including the bills, including all the committees in the House here, because we happen to have been from the same party. Madam Speaker, it's a pity that we see ourselves as hyphenated Kenyans. And we demonize hard work. We demonize wisdom. We demonize aspirations and ambitions and achievements by looking at it where that person comes from. And I know that because we suffer the same things. As a community, when we work very hard, the stuff that goes out is that the Somalis, they're taking over the country. They're doing very well. This is one thing that should have made every Kenyan proud, that other Kenyans are doing very well in terms of development, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of athletics, in terms of academia, everything. Madam Speaker, I want to tell our country, I host a nation, or rather a constituency, which houses in excess of 450,000 refugees. And those people are from the same tribe, the same ethnicity, the same religion, the same looks, the same denomination within Islam. They are all, we have got 4 denominations within the Sunni Muslim, but then they are Shafi'is. And still, when you have a failed state, the amount of mayhem, the amount of destruction, and the amount of suffering is unimaginable and incalculable. I want to warn my Kenyan brothers and sisters, starting with members of parliament. Let's not divide our country. Let's not divide our country. Look at the Congo DRC in the period of time since Mobutu Sese Seko was overthrown. They've lost about 6 million lives. And there is no light at the end of the tunnel. Madam Speaker, I would beg you to give me 2 more minutes if you can. Madam Speaker, we are 44 nations in this country here, with 44 different languages, with different looks, with different regions. If I've seen Somalia, I've traveled from one end of that country to the other end. You cannot tell the difference. You said we're giving 1 minute? You can't tell one clan from the other unless you ask. And invariably, in most cases, when you ask, they will tell you the right clan. And they're all related to one another. And you can still see we have got in excess of 800 Somali refugees here. 450,000 in my 800,000. 450,000 in my constituency, and an additional 207,000 in urban centers as aliens, and also in Kakuma and a number of other places. Madam Speaker, I implore on my Kenyan brothers and sisters, let us respect the leadership of this country. Raila Odinga is a leader of an immense repute. Let's respect him. Let also the leaders who have had positions in this country as ministers, as vice presidents, as everything, as president, respect other leaders. Democracy, the nature of democracy is diversity of opinion. The fact that somebody does not agree with your political opinions does not necessarily mean that you have to demonize that person. This country needs healing, Madam Speaker. The other option is that we don't want to turn it into a DRC. We don't want to turn it into another Somalia. And we don't want to turn it into a Syria or a Lebanon or a Libya or God knows where, or a Yemen, Madam Speaker, or Syria for that matter. Madam Speaker, let us celebrate our brilliant scientists, let's celebrate them. Our athletes, let's celebrate them as Kenyans. Our political leadership, let's celebrate them. Madam Speaker, whenever we ask for something, we're asking for it or contesting for those things as Kenyans. The candidature was Kenya. It was not Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga is secondary. But now Kenya lost and Djibouti won. We ran for the Security Council one time against Djibouti and won. And Djibouti lost that time. So losing and winning is neither here nor there. We had loved to win, but if our brothers in the other end won, we will congratulate them, give them a good handshake, and tell them next time. But for the future, from here going forward, there is need for this country to be united. The President and the Prime Minister, my advice, my implosion, my pleading to them, please unite this country. Keep on the good work that you're doing right now. And let the naysayers understand that Kenya is bigger than your political.
The Honorable Kainan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, may I also join my colleagues in commending the President for his mojo and telemastic manner in which he has approached the whole AU election this year. Madam Speaker, also allow me to appreciate the amazing gingerly approach and manner the Honorable Raila also exhibited after the loss. Madam Speaker, the Odingas have always been magnanimous and patriotic. And I want to remind Kenyans, in 1962, when the white colonialists declared Kenyatta as the leader of death and darkness, it's the Odingas who said, no internal self-rule without Kenyatta. Madam Speaker, in 1992, when Mzee Moi had a problem immediately after the election, is the Odinga who came to the aid of Mzee Moi. In 1997, when Mzee Moi had a problem, is the Odinga again under the Grand Corporation who again came to the assistance of Mzee Moi. In 2002, it's the Odingas who said Kipakitosha. In 2007, when we had a serious national challenge, it's the Odingas who saved this country. In 2018, it is Odinga again who joined Uhuru under the infamous handshake. In 2024, when everybody expected Kenyans to fight because of that entitlement of tribally driven, tribally centered, tribally oriented shareholding mechanism, is the Odinga who said, no, we have one country. What does all this demonstrate? That the Odingas have always been there for this country. Madam Speaker, elections, when you decide to join an election, you either lose or win. The continental politics, Madam Speaker, Kenya as a leading economic hub, as a leading diplomatic hub, we have demonstrated under the leadership of President Ruto that Kenya is not just a country per se, it's a diplomatic hub. That is why many countries decided to stick by us, to support the Honorable Odinga, and the little challenge that has assisted our colleague, our friend from Djibouti to win the election should be seen as a gain, because at the end of the day, we also live in democracy. Madam Speaker, the naysayers who are tribalists, the ethnic chauvinists, must be told in no uncertain terms that this country belongs to all of us. Their biological nationalism has no place in the modern day Kenya. They must accept this is a country of many nation states. Many nation states, and these nation states that have contributed in defining our national borders and our national heritage. So long as you sit somewhere and you believe in your tribal bygones, Madam Speaker, there's no time. The majority of Kenyans will live by your ideology. That ideology has been overtaken by events. I want to request His Excellency the President to work with the Honorable Odinga in determining and working out 2027 and 2032 in the future, so that at one time the Odingas also get an opportunity in the history of this country. Madam Speaker, however, there are certain things that we need to go back and determine. We need to recalibrate our foreign policy and fill the pitfalls. Because literally, we have assisted many African countries. In the Horn of Africa, in the East Africa, Kenya is the only country that has not gone through militarism. We have been host to many refugees from Somalia, from Burundi, Rwanda, Uganda, Southern Sudan, Ethiopia. Many countries in the region must celebrate the dynamic nature of Kenyan politics and the contribution of Kenya, not only to the continental peace and stability, but also to our democracy in the region. And this is why I expected, in the first instance, the Honorable Odinga will have won. But I think that aspect, because sometimes diplomacy is very tricky. There's something called in diplomacy, Madam Speaker, track 1 and track 2. In track 1, nations just sit on the table, discuss niceties. But in the evening, they resort to something called track 2. Track 2 is something called the ice diplomacy. You discuss it under the table, and that is what determines how you relate to the nation and other nations. Madam Speaker, this is one more minute. This is a defining moment. We have learned it. We have learned it. I want to ask the managers of our foreign policy to go back to the drawing board and determine those genuine friends of the Republic of Kenya, and chart out with them an avenue, a path that will not only take care of their economic, political well-being, but will also safeguard our national pride. And this is what will help the people of Kenya. I say congratulations, President Ruto. Congratulations, Honorable Raila Odinga, for standing firm for the well-being of this country. And we, wherever we are, will support you in your endeavor to take this country and help.
Member for Homa Bay Town, Honorable Peter Kaluma. And we are sticking to this 5 minutes. Maybe we start reducing to 3.
Yeah.
I think Honorable Kaluma, you'll be the last to have 5 minutes. Then we can move to 3.
Yes.
Oh, 5 is okay. We have few. Let's continue.
Thank you. I hope, Honorable Speaker, my 1 minute is still there. Honorable Speaker, I stand to support this motion. I'm one person who is led by the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And let me confirm to the nation that he shared with me the thinking to run, or the intention to run for this seat, well before most people knew of it. And so let me go on record as saying, Honorable Speaker, that it is not President Ruto or anybody else who put Honorable Raila to run for this seat. It was his choice based on what he believed he would do for Africa.
And Honorable Speaker, I want to say that the fact that Honorable Raila has not succeeded to be the chair of the AUC is a loss to Africa and a loss to Kenya. We know Honorable Raila and his leadership credentials as a Pan-Africanist, as a leader who is very passionate about the unity, the prosperity, and peace across Africa. And an Honorable Speaker, we know so because of the sacrifices he's made for this country. Because of shortness of time, let me thank Honorable Raila for stepping in to the space to represent Kenya in that continental competition. Honorable Speaker, we should not forget that barely 2 years ago, the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga had a contest with President William Ruto. And it's a contest which went up to the Supreme Court. I would therefore not end, Honorable Speaker, without thanking His Excellency, the President, for the magnanimity he showed in stepping forward to support Prime Minister Raila Odinga in the manner he did, in word and in deed. And Honorable Speaker, in so doing, the President has confirmed that he understands very deeply his role as the head of state for all Kenyans, and is being a symbol of national unity. He has taught us that as a constitutional democracy, once we have elections and you take reins, you stand with every Kenyan wherever they are in whatever bid they are making continentally. I wanted to request these two great sons of Kenyan leaders that they have seen through this contest how Kenyans believe we can be a divided people. Honorable Speaker, we always have athletics. And I can tell you, even in the midst of the post-election violence in 2008, when Pamela Jelimo was winning, although we were in different seats as Kenyans due to the times and the temptations we were going through at the time, we stood up and embraced. I wanted to request these two great leaders that the enterprise to unite the country, the need to create the Kenyan nation which has eluded us for far too long, is before them to achieve for Kenya. I would be happy, Honorable Speaker, for that day when whichever Kenya it is, as we have been doing with sports, contesting for anything outside of our border, we forget about where we come from, the communities we come from, and we all rally behind them. And so I'm requesting the Right Honorable Raila Odinga and President William Ruto that this AUC contest is something we need to build on and to unite this country and create one prosperous, equitable, fair country in which all of us are proud to be Kenyan. Honorable Speaker, when I returned, I was met by some media people who were asking, now, are you going to stop supporting the administration? It is the patriotic duty of all Kenyans to support the government in place. And I wanted to tell those people that I happen to be from the community of Right Honorable Raila Odinga. I can tell you, in the enterprise of building one Kenya, count on Raila to join hands and to continue to the end with President William Ruto. For those who think that there would be any squabbles between us out of this contest, I've seen naysayers thinking so. Honorable Speaker, let me tell you, we are going to hold the hands of President William Ruto more firmer to build one united country where all of us.
I think there are many others who are, but I think the Honorable Kimani Kuria, member for Molo.
Thank you very much,
And
Honorable
if you can
Speaker.
speak in under 5 minutes would be good.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And from the onset, I would like to congratulate this great son of the Republic of Kenya, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. You know, Honorable Speaker, we do not speak enough of the sacrifices that this great Kenyan has made for where Kenya is where it is today. The freedom of speech that we celebrate, the multi-party democracy that we celebrate in this country, is one of the fruits that were fought with very painful losses by one Raila Amolo Odinga. His coming out as such a successful candidate for the African Union position of Speaker clearly also demonstrates the energy that he had and the confidence that the 20 heads of state gave on this son of our Honorable Speaker is one thing today. I'm a very proud Kenyan, and I celebrate this great Kenyan Honorable Speaker. During the campaign period, Honorable Speaker, and during the launch of Baba's bid for the AU, at the same time, we had a meeting with young legislators across Africa. And I actually took those young legislators to the campaign launch of the Honorable Raila Odinga at Addis Ababa, Honorable Speaker. I thought I was introducing, as a chairman of the Africa Young Parliamentarians Network, I thought I was introducing these young legislators across Africa to our former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga. I was shocked, Madam Speaker. Speaker after speaker, member of parliament across the African continent talked about how Raila Amolo Odinga had mentored them. They talked about personal encounters. They talked about the history that he told them and the commitment he gave them of his support, Honorable Speaker. The encouragement that he gave these young people, that some of them attribute to the positions they hold where they are in their respective Honorable Speaker. And with that, I admired this great Kenyan. Many honorable members in this House, including young legislators, have been mentored by one Raila Amolo Odinga. And that is a reason that we really need to celebrate. The likes of CPM Mayaka, Honorable Speaker, the likes of nominated senators and members of parliament in this House, Honorable Speaker, as a result of the hands of this great Kenyan. People are saying it is Kenyan, it is the Africa that lost. And I believe it. Because Kenya had a chance of a person who had the vision, the history, and knows where Africa needs to go to in the future. And I'm really hoping that perhaps in the future, there will be another stage, whether in the continent or globally, that Raila Amolo Odinga will get to serve, Honorable Speaker. I miss the days that Kenya was a patriotic country. How we celebrate our athletes when they win in the marathons. We don't care where they come from. We don't care the communities they come from. All we know is that we have a Kenyan carrying a Kenyan flag in a marathon in London, and he has won. A few years ago, we had one of our greatest teachers, a man from Njoro, I think it's called Mr. Tambach, who won a global prize on being the best teacher globally, Honorable Speaker. We were all there congratulating this teacher because he was carrying the Kenyan flag in the global arena, Honorable Speaker. I don't know what happened when it came to Raila Amolo Odinga. And this is a very sad state of affairs in our country. If we continue, yes, of course, by some people, and if we continue this trajectory, Honorable Speaker, we're experiencing a toxicity in the country where any success of anyone else apart from you is demonized. We saw the US government cut funding for US aid. It's their own policy, fine, it's their country, it's their taxes, yes. But Honorable Speaker, the number of, I saw Kenyans celebrate that now those guys who are working with US aid are now jobless. How does it benefit you that someone else is jobless and it is not you who is going to get that job anyway? So, Honorable Speaker, I really wish that we had that patriotism back, where one is Kenyan and they are competing in a global space, in a continental place. We leave all our political differences aside, all our ethnicity aside, all our family issues aside, and support that somebody, because that is a Kenyan, and that should be the Kenyan spirit. With that, I support Honorable Speaker.
Mic is not working. Okay. Yeah, the Honorable Member for Kitui South, Honorable Nyamai.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to support this motion that has been moved ably by the majority leader and seconded by the minority leader, the biggest cheerleader of the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the Honorable Junet Mohammed. Honorable Speaker, I would like to start by congratulating the President for standing with Baba. He needed his support. He needed him to cheer him on. So we are very grateful for this. Madam Speaker, I would like to say that the Honorable Raila Odinga, when he was going for this position, he knew that it involved 55 countries of this world. And he knew that it was a very competitive position where he required to give his time, his brain, to stand in the international agenda, tell those people who he is, introduce himself to the world at that level. And I would like to congratulate him for that and thank God for him, Honorable Speaker. Because at the age of 80, Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga has a sharp mind. He still has the strength to compete with young people, where he came second, and we would like to tell him, keep going, Honorable Raila Odinga, because God has given you the grace. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Raila Odinga has a gift. He has been in leadership for over 30 years. He stood with Honorable Moi. He stood with the Honorable Kibaki. He stood with Ruto for 10 years. And now he is working with William Samoei Ruto. Madam Speaker, I would like to say that love him, hate him, Raila Odinga is blessed for his age, for the work that he has done, for the courage that he has shown, for the strength that God has given him. We would only like to say, those of us in position, may God give us so many people who are like him, who can put our country to the level that he has. It is not the first time, Honorable Speaker, that Raila Odinga has given himself to lead the continent. In 2018, up to 2023, as the majority leader said, he was the chair of infrastructure and development, the special envoy, and that means that he did not do it for anybody. He did it for this country. The position that he went for was not for himself, it was for us. And I think it is time we love our country, Honorable Speaker. And for anyone who may have celebrated this loss, I think it is important for them to go back and just reflect on what we are doing to our country. This is a position that would have given us a print in the country as Kenya, that having the former Prime Minister leading Africa to ensure that we have peace, to ensure that we have development, and to ensure that we play at the world arena. Honorable Speaker, I would like to congratulate the President, His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto. It is hard. He had a very tough competition with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. But for the sake of this country, he has kept everything aside and said that this is the only country we have. This is the place that we live. This is the place where we bring up our children and our grandchildren. And we would like to tell him, Your Excellency, President William Ruto, Your Excellency, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, unite this country for us. And we are right behind you. And we'll make sure that we pray for you, that everything goes as planned. Honorable Speaker, I would like to say that finally, when the Right Honorable Prime Minister realized that there was going to be a stalemate, he knew the right time to say, stop it. We have a continent that needs proper leadership. And that is the time that he decided to pull back so that he can give an opportunity to the current chair. As we congratulate the current chair, we would like to say, thank you, God, that Right Honorable Raila Odinga was able to be the second. Thank the countries that supported us, and these were our genuine friends, and they remain to be so. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Sarah Korere.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also want to join my colleagues in congratulating the former Prime Minister in his attempt to vie for the chairmanship of the AUC. And Madam Speaker, I also want to sincerely thank the President of this nation, His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, for his statesman and patriotism. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga is a man to be remembered for many things and is a man to be celebrated. Honorable Speaker, if there is one person who have paid the price for democracy in this country, it is the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. And is so consistent to an extent for 40 years, more than 40 years, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga is still standing for what he believes in, and truly he has proved that
what is your point of order? Yes.
Madam Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. Madam Speaker, we need to be serious and follow the time. We passed in this parliament that we'll go for 3 minutes. And because we all want to contribute, why can't we stick to 3 minutes? Because some are going for even 5 minutes, Madam Speaker.
I think when the substantive speaker was here, he asked the House whether we do 3 minutes or 5 minutes. Most people said 5, and then he said, let's start with 5 and see how it's moving. So is it your suggestion that we should move down to 3 minutes? Okay, those who are in favor of 3 minutes, will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. With as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? No, I think, Mheshimiwa Korere, I think you can proceed with the 5 minutes, and then we'll move to 3 minutes after that.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, truly this was going to be a win for Kenya, and even as the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga comes back home, he comes back a winner. The man who have lived his, to his word. Honorable Speaker, a lot of people or naysayers are castigating the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga for every time when he loses an election, he works with whoever who has won. There is nobody else in Africa who can do that. It is only the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. And Honorable Speaker, if you look at what is bedeviling our neighboring countries, it is because people want to win even when they have not won, and they don't care what happens to those countries. We have seen people being misplaced because of, egos, because of people fighting for power. The Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga is one person who have really proved that Kenya comes ahead of everything. Kenya comes ahead of him. And Honorable Speaker, I just want to implore upon this country that this is the high time that our president and the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga leads this country into unity. Honorable Speaker, I first got into politics through ODM. And at some stage, I was a ODM chairperson in Laikipia. And Honorable Speaker, even the president today was once an ODM person. He was once an ODM member. What I want to say is, it is possible for Kenyans to work together, regardless of which region they come from, regardless of which communities they come from, regardless of their religious backgrounds. Finally, Madam Speaker, it is so sad that some of the utterances that were uttered about the heads of states of other countries and our candidates were uttered on the pulpit of the church. Madam Speaker, we need to pray for our churches. We need to pray for our men and women of the cloth. Because, in our church, in the Catholic, we say the church is a moving church. But I just pray that the church, everybody does not move and leave the church in the world.
You're getting an opportunity, unless you're on a point of order. Hold on. Yeah, I think the next person was the Honorable nominated member, Honorable Irene Mayaka. And then I think we're coming to you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I also want to take this opportunity to join my fellow colleagues in congratulating the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga for conducting himself as the true Pan-Africanist that he is, and actually offering himself up for the AU Chairperson position. Honorable Speaker, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga is one of those people who are very resilient. when we were in Addis and we were all feeling very sad about this particular loss, he was talking to us while smiling and assuring us that it is not the end of the world. And so I really want to salute him for that. Honorable Speaker, I also want to take this opportunity to thank the President, His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, for leading the campaign on behalf of Kenya. Truly, what the President did was magnanimous of him. Him going across the whole country, the whole of Africa, him hosting us in State House to launch the campaign of the Honorable Raila Odinga is something that as young people we will never forget, and we want to thank him for that. Madam Speaker, and the Honorable CPA Kimani Kuri alluded to this, that so many of us have been beneficiaries of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga offering us mentorship. Madam Speaker, if you notice, on my right hand, I always wear two wristbands. One that is the Kenyan wristband for my patriotism. The other one is a blue wristband that has the initials DOR, which means Daughters of Raila. And the reason why I do this is because I am one of the beneficiaries of a mentorship of a great statesman of this country. The Right Honorable Raila Odinga did not look at me as the daughter of so-and-so. He looked at me as a young girl who was really passionate about politics, who wanted to be in this space and mentored me to get to where I am. And so, Honorable Speaker, it really saddened and disgusted me when I saw so many other young people on social media trying to castigate the candidature of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And Honorable Speaker, I just want to say that we also have a fault because we do not educate our young people about the history of some of the great Kenyans that we have, because they need to understand that when you're out there, when you're competing as a Kenyan, we all forget our tribal cards, put them aside, and stand up for the Kenyan who is competing for something. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, even for the people in Nyeri who are celebrating this, I really want to just tell them that that was a show of patriotism, and we should not allow it as a country. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, even as we introspect and look at what else for Kenya in terms of Africa, even as we congratulate Djibouti for winning this particular context, I just want to say personally, I think that Africa lost an opportunity to be led by a great man, an opportunity to have a Pan-Africanist who would have taken this continent to the next level. I submit and I thank you.
Iti? Yeah, Honorable Kimilu. I know you dropped to the bottom because you made a point of order. Yes, and we're coming to each of you. I can see your faces. I can see you, Mboka. I can see you, Naomi Wako. I can see you, Ferdinand. I know you're next, and like that. I think everyone will have an opportunity. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. And Madam Speaker, before I contribute to this important motion, I want to give my condolences to the family of Malulu and the constituency for the loss. And Madam Speaker was our colleague. And I want to say my apology to the constituency, Madam Speaker, and the family. Madam Speaker, I want to say for the loss of Baba, it's a loss of the country, Kenya. And I want to say that we all lost, Madam Speaker, as a country. And this wants to teach us a lesson going forward, Madam Speaker, because it's a big shame to the country, Kenya, for this big loss. But because, Madam Speaker, Baba was a strong candidate, we want to congratulate him because, in fact, coming number 2, it was not a joke because there was a stiff competition, Madam Speaker. And I think, Madam Speaker, going forward, we also need to see how we are going to operate with some of our friends. Because, Madam Speaker, although, Mr. Speaker, although you cannot know who voted where, Madam Speaker, but body language and the reaction can also speak louder than the voting, Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker. So I think some of the guys, they pretend they are our friends. I think they are not our friends, Mr. Speaker. Like this guy, I don't think whether Museveni is a friend of this country, Mr. Speaker. And these are the people we need, Mr. Speaker, to be serious, because we need to know who are our true friends and who are just lying us, who are just telling us we work together, we are friends, but they are not friends to this country, Mr. Speaker. I think it's very important, Mr. Speaker, and this is the time as a country, we need to be united, we need to look forward, and also we need to forget of what has happened, Mr. Speaker, and move forward as a country. We need to come back. I want to request Baba to come back to the country. We unite and see how we can move our country together, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't agree with some of segment made by the Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, but it's their right to make such segments. But Mr. Speaker, I think this is a time we need to give Baba moral support and also stand with him, because it's not easy. It's not easy. I'm a politician and I know what it means. But, Mr. Speaker, we need to support him. We need to give him moral support. And I want to say, as a country, let's not have...
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I take this opportunity to support the motion. One, I begin by congratulating and giving echo to the President William Ruto, and on behalf of myself, the people of Emuhaya, the UDA party, indicate that I support and congratulate the President, because he undertook to make sure that Raila is supported for this position. Ordinarily, it would be not easy for a person whom you had been competing with. I saw a spirit of brotherhoodness, a spirit of Kenyahood that he exuded. I also want to thank him for taking us to that space where you would imagine for a new Kenyan born that this is the first time that we were having the AUC elections happening, because it's a space which ordinarily Kenyans had not been exposed to. And the publicity, the campaigns, and the aura that it was given set the stage. Number two, let me congratulate and echo Raila Amolo Odinga. Raila Amolo Odinga has risen now to beyond just a leader of a section or a small area in this country. Raila is a statesman. He now joins the Pan-Africanists, the likes of W.E. Du Bois and the others like Marcus Garvey, maybe Kwame Nkrumah and others. Because what he does, he shows very clearly that he is above the normal, ordinary, small politics of Kenya. But he rises beyond that level to support Kenya as a country and where need is required. Look at just the last, because one member of parliament had created the milestones that he has done. But I want to echo the one that is most recent, when we just had the recent situation whereby everybody would think that Raila should use the opportunity available to make everything very unstable in the country. And that was just after the Gen Z riots. He steps down and calms the waters. That's a statesman. And therefore, as he comes back, I believe these are two leaders who went through a very rigorous